Hello, my dear friends, astrology lovers, my dear English-speaking followers. Here is Olga Vasilchuk from very sunny Costa Rica. I would like to present today a video where I will talk about the transits, the planetary transit aspects for 2 weeks starting from September 9th. It will be the new moon in Virgo until the 25th of September, because on the September 26th we will leave for the full moon in Aries. So I will talk today about the 2 weeks between September 9th until September 25th, 2018. Well, the first thing I want to mention is that the background aspect of the entire month of September is the trine of Saturn in Capricorn and with Uranus in Taurus. But this trine will never became and never will be exact because of the retrograde phase of the planets. You remember that Saturn was retrograde since April and Uranus is retrograde now, but the orb of 1 degree will last until September 22nd. So in the context of this trine Saturn-Uranus, Saturn stabilizes all Uranian nervousness and brusqueness, and brings many constructive tendencies in our affairs, and it gives more chances to success to all social projects. It doesn't allow to definitely break with a relationship that is precious for us. Uranus is always in search for the new. It aspires to freedom, and Saturn is in strong position because it's in the sign of its rulership. Saturn is in Capricorn, doesn't allow these explosions of Uranus to turn into extremism and carelessness. And the aspect affects especially those who are born around December 22nd and April 22nd, and those who have in their charts personal planets, not only the Sun, as well as the angular houses of the horoscope, ascendant, descendant, IC, MH, in the first degrees of Taurus and Capricorn. In the context of this trine, Saturn-Uranus, we have to mention that Saturn became direct on September 6th in the second degree of Capricorn, where it was in the retrograde phase since April 17th. And this astrological event, the end of the retrograde phase of Saturn, brings important changes that help to focus on our long-term goals and projects. A situation or situations in plural which were formed in January 2018 can be clarified and resolved now. Between September 7th and 19th, 19th, we have the combination of the aspect pattern, the T-square, Venus, Mars, Uranus. Venus in square to Mars is formed on September 8th. Opposition Venus-Uranus is formed on September 12th, and square Mars-Uranus on September 18th. I will talk about this a little bit later. The configuration of one opposition and two squares between the three planets is called the T-square, and it symbolizes the conflict between the masculine and the feminine. The attraction, the passion arise quickly and fade away just as quickly. Strong sensuality is alternated with the verbal aggression between partners. Very strong emotional reactions to external events can also characterize us in commercial relationships, not only in love relationships. Excessive pressure and aggressivity must be avoided. Decisions must be weighted before we take action. Our Venus will be in the center of our attention until, if you talk about the general transit picture, general transit situation, until the end of the year, even until January 2019. We will see now why. So on September 9th, during the new moon, Venus will leave the sign of Libra, the sign of its rulership, and will enter Scorpio. During this transit, sensuality increases, sexual desires intensify, feeling sometimes obscure the mind. There is a tendency to dramatize. We can feel jealousy even during harmonious aspects of Venus or with other planets, even during trines and sextiles. Emotions can become uncontrollable, so we will not avoid scandals, settling accounts in relationships. The feeling of jealousy can be particularly painful during this transit. The feeling of envy, of frustration about the partner, about the relationship in general, the feeling of dissatisfaction by the relationship. This time can also promise an extra source of money, since Venus symbolizes money also, financial values, material values, income through a partner, and during negative aspects such as squares and oppositions, money can disappear in unknown direction. So look, Venus will enter Scorpio now on October 5th. It will become retrograde in the 10th degree of Scorpio. Then on October 31st, Venus will enter again in the previous sign in Libra. On November 16th, Venus will become direct in the 25th degree of Libra. On the 2nd of December, Venus will enter once again in Scorpio. It will stay until the 7th of January 2019. At this moment, it will enter Sagittarius. So Venus is in Libra and Scorpio until the end of the year, leaving its retrograde loop, retrograde phase. I will prepare the separate video about this subject, of course, about the Venus retrograde. But in any case, since the beginning of September, Venus is already in its retrograde loop. So what about our new moon? On the 9th of September, 2:01 p.m. Eastern Time, right? New York or Montreal, in the 17th degree of Virgo. What is its particularity? Its particularity is that it closes definitely the corridor of eclipses, which was very long, right? It started 1 month before the first of the 3 eclipses, because remember we lived the first eclipse in Cancer, solar eclipse in Cancer, on July 12th. So the corridor started on with the new moon in Gemini on June 13th. So all this is behind now. All these tensions, confrontations. Remember, Mars retrograde opposed to the Sun, lunar eclipse extremely violent, 6 planets retrograde at the same time. So all this is over now, and in addition to that, on September 13th, the Sun will be in sextile to the point of the lunar eclipse in Cancer of July 12th. This will be the moment of the harmonization of situations that were created, maybe tense, conflictual, critical situations that were created during this solar eclipse in Cancer on July 12th. So get advantage of these energies. Now, what about the aspects of the point of the new moon with other planets? You remember in the last video I talked about the opposition Sun-Neptune around the 7th of September. So now the moon is getting closer to the Sun, creating the conjunction, forming the new moon. So the confusion and disorientation of our desires and aspirations will be transmitted to the new moon by the opposition of the Sun and the moon to Neptune. We are still in the orb of the opposition Sun-Neptune. So between the 7th of September and the 10th of September, the emotional component of all situations will be very visible. Those of us who are sensitive to mood swings, to neuroses and depressions, this day have to watch the emotional state closely. We can easily be pushed to different extremes. There will be one step between sadness and joy, for example. At the same time, it's a very powerful and positive new moon because its ruler, the new moon is occurring in Virgo, and its ruler is Mercury, is in a very strong position. First of all, it's direct, and in the direct phase, and it forms the trine with the Pluto and sextile with the Jupiter. So it will be a good moment to launch projects, at least to plan them, projects in the mercurial spheres, trips, travels, studies, communication, right? And any new moon is never suitable for starting new projects. We only have to put down the list of things you want to realize to do during the next lunar month. We have to start acting starting from the second lunar day. During the new moon, we just plan. This new moon also makes us focus on our health, because Virgo is the sign of associated with the health. It's why not to do something for our body, for our health, our organism. For example, detox or fasting, just eating fruits or drinking juices. And this new moon also highlights the importance of professional and practical issues, since the sign of Virgo is also associated with service, work, and professional environment. We have to close the old files, old cases, old projects, to plan the new lunar month and to start acting on starting from the second lunar day. Now, what about the general tendencies of September? The main trends of September will evolve in such a way that we will see the real results of transformations launched on subtle plans this summer during the season of eclipses. We will feel the restructuring in value systems, in our value systems, in finances, in social ties, in partnerships, and in relationships. A particular period of concentration of these tendencies takes shape between September 16th and 26th, when the aspect of Mars with Uranus, the square, and when the aspect of Mars and the southern lunar node, the conjunction with the node, will be exact. So the square Mars-Uranus will be exact on September 18th, right? Yes, and the conjunction Mars and the node around the 26th, just after the full moon in Aries, in 2 weeks. So we have a lot of transit aspects during these 2 weeks. Let's look at them briefly, and let's analyze their symbolism briefly. September 11th, we have the ingression of Mars in Aquarius. Mars will stay in the sign until November 15th. You remember Mars was in Aquarius already. It was in the Capricorn because its retrograde phase was very long, so it passed by 2 signs. It gets back again to Aquarius, and this transit gives the desire for independence and rebellious energy. Freedom becomes during this period not only a word but a vital necessity. The same day, September 11th, the Sun forms 2 gorgeous aspects, a sextile with Jupiter and a trine with the Pluto. Starting new projects in business and in situations where interaction with authorities is required will be easy. The start will be easy of these projects. Rapid progress in professional life, thanks to good working capacity, is also promised by these 2 aspects. These are days of effective cooperation and of the effective teamwork. This is also a favorable time, the 11th of September plus minus 2 days, for major structural reforms. When you have to restructure something, maybe your company, it's a good time for those also who recover from illness, when you were weak physically. After a period where you have been weak, yes, ill or sick. September 12th, Jupiter is in sextile with Pluto. We have lived this aspect already in the beginning of the year. It encourages the implementation of long-term programs, professional development, and the acquisition of new skills. Perspectives of career development, possibility of effective use of power and influence, both in the social and personal relationships, are also they are promised by this aspect, but under one condition, on the condition that we apply some efforts on our part, if we participate actively, because it's just a sextile. When we have the trine between these 2 planets, for example, Pluto and Jupiter, things happen without our participation. Everything is easy. But during the sextile, we have also to do things that depend on ourselves, to participate actively. September 13th, Venus is in sextile with the Saturn. These are favorable days for the formalization of any contractual relationship. I mean, from signing of commercial contracts to marriage, when you have to sign. It's a good period for profitable acquisitions and investments in financial sphere. September 14th, Mercury is in opposition to Neptune. We will have the opportunity to discover what was hidden, what has been hidden. The ability to capture and to analyze subconsciousness, our subconscious signals, signs will be awakened. That's why the work with the dreams will be very successful. At the same time, during the opposition Mercury-Neptune, our perception will be excessively idealistic. It's better not to take practical, serious, important decisions these days, especially those that have not been analyzed in advance. September 16th, 2 days later, Mercury forms two aspects, trine with the Pluto and sextile with the Jupiter. The both aspects define the days as a suitable period for daily work, for the implementation of ambitious career plans. Any intellectual activity will be successful, as well as activities related to learning, education, reception, and transmission of all information, to the analysis and evaluation of an important and serious idea. September 18th, Mars is in square with Uranus. So, as I said, Mars, now being in a direct movement, returns to the degrees where it was in July, August, and finally finishes its long square with Uranus. The exact aspect square Mars-Uranus with the orb of 1 degree began to be formed in July, and it was an important context, an important background of the lunar eclipse of July 27th, do you remember? So at that time, and also this time, since the aspect is repeated, conflicts, nervousness, aggression, and manifestation of intolerance were and are now will be multiplied. It's better to avoid mass gatherings of people, especially if these masses are excited by something. For example, music concert on a big square, political demonstration, political protest, crowded stadiums, etc. In personal relationships, the aspect forms, of course, a negative background, and at the moment of its first square in July, what was fragile probably broke in the past, and this time the situation of July will come back in our lives, and during already the Mars, the direct phase of Mars, and maybe we will have the chance to resolve the situation that was formed in July during the first square, Mars, Uranus, okay? At the same time, if you talk about the square Mars-Uranus, if a situation demands that we expects from us acceleration, especially if this acceleration is calculated and planned in advance, we will succeed. This can be sometimes useful, the acceleration, and certainly not boring. The sensitive group of people are those who have their planets in the chart and the angular houses in the fourth and fifth degree of Taurus and Capricorn. Also those born in around the 22nd of April and 22nd of January. September 21st, the Sun is in conjunction with Mercury. And this is what we call the superior conjunction, Mars-Mercury. The inferior conjunction Mars-Mercury took place during the retrograde phase of Mercury, and it was on the day of the solar eclipse in Leo on August 11th. The plans and ideas of the past that were formed during the retrograde phase of Mercury and during its conjunction with the Sun on the day of the solar eclipse in Leo on August 11th will find the total manifestation and will meet new opportunities and concrete strategies of their existence. The new trends will manifest themselves as much as possible and will change the established order of things. It's desirable, nevertheless, to avoid excessive fever and impulsiveness in exchanges, in interaction with other people. The loss of control can cause problems. We must plan mercurial activities for this period where we will succeed because Mercury is in a very strong position, is in the sign of its rulership in Virgo. September 22nd, Mercury has the ingression in the sign of Libra. It leaves the sign of Virgo and it enters Libra, where it will stay until October 9th. In communication, conviviality, tact, politeness come to the fore. Human relations are very important for us during this transit. We seek understanding, and for this reason, ourselves will become flexible, compliant, and patient. We consider any situation from different points of view. We negotiate diplomatically. We are not prone to confrontation. In critical situations, we are intensively seeking a compromise. Mercury in Libra, right? Travels are often professional, related to groups or to public affairs, and during the tense aspects like squares and oppositions of Mercury with other planets, we can have some it can give indecision, lack of objectivity, tendency to intrigue. September 23rd, the Sun enters in the sign of Libra. It will stay during 1 month. Happy birthday to my dear Libras. It's a good period to mitigate disputes, disagreements between people, as the need for peace and harmony increases. Feelings of equality and justice are brought to the fore. This period is conducive to strengthening one's own authority and prestige among professionals. It gives the opportunity to gain popularity, to become famous in a certain circle or in society. The desire for the opposite sex is often intensified. People can be more relaxed, open to flirt and to romantic adventures. Also, this time, the aesthetic needs are increasing. People are striving to touch art in all its forms. Also, solving legal problems is easier than usually, and it's a favorable time for artisans, diplomats, tradesmen, and people involved in other professions of Venus. And what is this day, the ingression of the Sun in Libra? Of course, this is the day of the autumn equinox, which marks the beginning of the astronomical autumn in the northern hemisphere and the beginning of astronomical spring in the southern hemisphere. The autumn equinox is one of the 4 sacred feasts which since ancient times have been venerated and solemnly celebrated. They were given a mystical meaning because it was believed that during the equinoxes especially, the connection between the world of the alive and between the world of the dead were particularly strong. The Slavic people were celebrating what we call the New Age, which traditions are entered in ancient times. The celebration was marking the beginning of a new cycle of life, and after having gathered the harvest, people were organizing different celebrations like wedding parties and fiançailles and all kinds of celebrations, also celebration of the harvest. The energy of the day of the autumnal equinox is very weak. It's so weak, and even we can feel exhausted energetically, you know. It has particularly no life, the energy of this day, and it cannot fill our activities and our affairs with our plans with energy of growth and prosperity. There is no energy of growth and prosperity for our project. So the days of the autumn equinox are not suitable for the beginning of any important activity, whether it concerns personal or professional spheres. This is the most fruitful time for to conduct negotiations and to reconcile with our family members, with our beloved ones, with the close people, with our friends. The Sun passes in the sign of Libra, and here we go. We start a completely new, different phase of the yearly cycle. The sign of Libra is a sign requiring balance, harmony everywhere and in everything. Here, questionable issues must be settled only through fair, peaceful and diplomatic compromise. We have the opportunity to complete the project that was the projects in the plural that were launched around 9 months ago, maybe in the end of the previous year or in the beginning of 2018. So this is the day of the harvest, right? It's not the beginning of it's the beginning of a new cycle, but first of all we have to think about what we have accomplished since the beginning of the year. And the two last aspects for these 2 weeks, just before the full moon, September 23rd, Mercury is in square with Saturn, and September 24th, Mercury is in trine with Mars. Difficulties in transmitting and receiving information are possible during these aspects. It's not the best day for important meetings, negotiations, especially in business sphere. We have to watch our speech. Excessive openness, frankness, sincerity in inappropriate situations or with people who they don't need to hear our truth can cause problems. My dear friends, I hope this information was useful, and I wish to all of you happy new moon, happy autumn equinox. Use in the right way the energies of the new moon, and I will talk to you very soon in the next video about the retrograde phase of Venus, and of course in 2 weeks about the full moon in Aries on September 26th. Thank you for your attention and your time. Talk to you in 2 weeks. All the best. Good luck to all of you. Goodbye.